Hey y'all, welcome to the Liberation is Lit podcast, where the power of storytelling meets the force of social change. I'm your host, Taylor Simon, and in this podcast, we believe in the profound impact of stories. Stories that amplify voices, challenge norms, and foster understanding. So today, I'm here with author Lauren Wilson to talk about her book, Afro Bougie Blues. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with Lauren because we have been working together on a consignment ship partnership with the bookstore, and I've been selling Afro Bougie Blues and Liberation is Lit, which you can go on the website and get your copy after this episode. So, Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to write a short story collection about just different African American experiences?
Well, as you know, my name is Lauren Wilson, and by day, my day job is an engineer, and I've been writing off and on since I was a little tyke. I've always had a journal, I've always had a diary, and some guy, some point said I could write. And I started trying to write this story about a man who finds out he has an adult son. He's living in DC. His son was raised in rural, somewhere in the South, and is a complete Republican and has hardcore Republican values. And the 30-year-old man doesn't know how to deal with a son, and B, a conservative son. And there is this woman in the book who is, she doesn't want to be his bestie, but she is his bestie. And she tries to help him navigate this mess. And that was going to be my novel, and I never wrote it. So then I was finding that I had some life struggles around abortion and the abortion that I had had. And one day, this story came out, and it talks about the conflicts of abortion in a magical way. It has some incredible spirituality to it. And after I wrote it, I felt better. And so I just realized that I could write stories and they might have to do with something that was going on in my life, but then they would take on path of their own and they would just go in a direction. For example, I wrote a story about a woman who was losing weight, and she was successful where I had not been successful, but she also had a marriage that could not stand the turmoil of weight loss. And my husband was very supportive every single solitary time that I have tried to lose weight. And in my story, her husband couldn't handle this transformation into a beautiful woman. And then I was questioning some things that were happening to my husband around the fact that he had been in the military. And so I envisioned what it might be like to struggle with PTSD. And I wanted to put that out there. Now, thing that's really weird about me in stories, I am bipolar and I have a muse. And it's like a bipolar mania just comes over me. And all of a sudden, I need to write. I am overwhelmed, overcome, involved, immersed in a story. And I just sit down and the story comes out. It just pours out of me. And it's really funny because and really bad at endings. I just write and write and write and write and write, and then all of a sudden I'm spent and I've told the story and I look down at it and it's like, how does this end? And then I have to make up something. But each one of my stories, for the most part, was an outpouring of starting with me and then going off in its own direction. And for example, there were a couple of people in my life who were mothers whose sons ended up in jail for a variety of reasons. And I wanted to write about that. And it came. And then I went to get it edited. And I had a wonderful editor. She was amazingly brutal and totally able to rip my stories apart and tell me all kinds of things about why they didn't work and what I needed to do to make them work. And in this story, she said, am I supposed to like the mother? Because I can't stand her. It's like, oh no, she's supposed to be totally sympathetic. I'm going to have to rework her something incredible. And I snipped and tucked and pulled and pushed. And then I sent it back to her and I said, do you like her now? She said, this is much better. It's like, okay, good. But that story morphed into something beautiful, a very beautiful mother-son experience. And it was funny because it wasn't my experience. It had nothing to do with me. And I am not a mother. Goodness knows how I could come up with something and not even be a mother. But I did. And then I am on the cusp of being queer. And I decided to write a story about an affair. And I started out writing about my affair, and then I said, it should be two women. And so I wrote about this affair, and I tried to make it as where can you put this? I wanted you to accept the fact that they were having an affair and the fact that they were both married, and to feel a sense of caring and rooting for them, even though they were doing something illicit. Because I've known people in my life who had affairs, and in my mind, it's like, so raw. I know why you're doing it, but so. And people have reasons for having affairs, and they get into it, and there they are. And that is totally outside of my world of experience because I have never in my life had an affair. But I thought about what would it be like if I did? And I just ran with it. No, you have read the book, so you know all these stories if you can remember them.
I do. I do. And it's really interesting because this is the first time I hear about your experience writing the stories. And it seems like a lot of the stories have both one, a healing or curiosity or exploration for you, but also just showing your deep empathy for other people's experiences and trying to portray that in a story. So I feel like I love the stories even more now that I kind of hear the motivation behind them. But I definitely see how diverse the experiences and the lives of the different characters featured. Can you talk about why you thought it was important to represent such a wide range of Black experience, that even from the short sample of what you just talked about, you talked about what were you thinking about when thinking about representation about Black lives in the story?
I don't think I was thinking about those things, but when I came up with the title, the whole concept of Afro Bougie Blues, it was Black people. It was always Black people. And it was always Black people for whom money wasn't the problem. Something else more universal, more deep, more painful was going on that money couldn't fit. When you're having miscarriages, there's not a lot money can do. It can do some, but it can't take away the pain. PTSD is something that's very hard to attack. Weight loss is something, even Oprah struggled. It is not trivial. In fact, I saw the meme the other day that said, losing weight is hard, being overweight is hard. They're both hard, so it's a choice. Which way are you going to go? Are you going to deal with the pain of being overweight or the pain of trying to take it off? And so I wanted to explore the pain of trying to take off weight. Even when you have all the tools, even if you have the means, even if you have the ability to exercise, there's still lives involved. And that can't be solved with money. And then as a humorous aside, the last story, I don't know where that story came. The whole idea of friends who've been friends forever sitting around trying to help one of them deal with her new boyfriend problems. And I had a couple of friends who read it and said, my God, I wish I had friends like that. I wish I had friends where we could talk about choking on a banana and who did what with who and when and how long they waited and whether they waited and if they didn't wait and if they did. It was fun writing that one. That one was pure fun.
It was definitely fun reading that one too. And I was thinking the same thing, just having a group of friends to be open and just like have conversations with and be vulnerable in all types of ways. So I love that. That was one of my favorites too. Do you have any favorite passages or like short excerpts that you want to share on the pod real quick?
Well, let's see. Well, let me tell you about the one with PTSD. Oh, I just saw another one that was amusing. The one fear of following the adulterer. We do that one because that one's crazy.
That one was fun too. In a very interesting way. I remember that one. I remember thinking about like, oh, that one really had a profound impact on me. I will say.
Really?
Yes. It's like, because I'm always thinking about accountability and what justice looks like.
Oh,
So
yes.
I was like, that's just a
I
very
would say that.
interesting bit. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it seems so cliche. There he was making love to Candy Davidson, Mrs. Candy Davidson, when he felt pains in his chest. It was unfair. One was supposed to come, then go, not the other way around. But there was no helping it. Brian Willis was having a heart attack in a sleazy motel room in the middle of a tryst with a married woman. As he lay there gasping and trying to say, He could tell Candy a lot. He was just sated. He pointed to his heart, and she got the message. She called 911 as she got dressed and called the front desk. Seconds before, she fled out the door. He couldn't blame her. It was not the best situation to be in. The paramedics came, and Brian could feel the defibrillator. It was beyond words, and then it was beyond feeling. Or rather, he was beyond feeling the defibrillator. What he did feel was a sense of falling. Horrible feeling. Brian's worst fear was falling off a building or a cliff while looking down. He always stood 10 feet away from all the scenic views. He never stood at the edge of a boat. That was the extent of his fear. And now he was falling.
I love it. Oh, and you picked the perfect place to literally a cliffhanger. I love that one. I forgot about that one. That one was so good. That one was so good. So, yes, thank you so much for sharing about your work, how you came up with these stories. Again, like I feel a lot more connected to them now that I know like the stories behind them and kind of like how they made you feel as a writer and an artist. My last question for you is what advice do you want to offer listeners who want to make positive impacts in their communities or in the world through storytelling?
Well, me personally, I think it's important when you write to write something that is within your heart. And that's because I don't write for money. I'm sure if I wrote for money, I would have a completely different perspective. But I feel like if you want to create change through storytelling, it has to be something very real and very relevant. And it has to have heart. It doesn't work if you don't care about the characters. It doesn't, it won't impact anybody if they don't relate or in some way see themselves or see someone they know. Because what I was trying to do with most of my stories was enable people to connect to someone who was having an experience that they had never had. But all of a sudden, they were like, oh, okay. That's why it's so hard. And so, if you want to write a story and keep in mind, as I said, the characters have to be relatable, they have to be people you can root for. The situation should be believable, unless you're writing a fantasy novel. And even in a fantasy novel with a setting that is otherworldly, the human element is always present. It has to be. If you can't connect to the people, you'll close the book. So I guess always keep in mind believable characters, relatable characters, and then beginning, middle, and end. Make them tight.
I love that. I love what you said at the beginning, write something that is within your heart. I love that so much. So where can people find you and your work? Do you have social media, website?
I have a website, afrobougieblues.com, and you can get the book there and you can actually see my blog, which is all about social commentary and personal opinions. I've been blogging more than I've been writing. I I have been asked by some people if I would write another more bougie blues. And so far, there are about 4 stories. And it takes 12 to make a good book. So until they decide to come along, I'll just keep blogging away.
I love that. Y'all heard that. AfroBougieBlues.com. Read all of Lauren's blogs and keep an eye out for
Bougie Blues.
more Bougie Blue. Yes, read the blog, go to AfroBougieBlues.com and follow all of Lauren's work. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Lauren.
Oh, thank you, Taylor. I'm so glad you made this possible.
All right. Until next time, thank you for being part of the Liberation is Lit podcast. If you have stories to share or want to suggest any topics or guests, or just want to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Liberation is Lit, or visit our website, liberationislit.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review. And remember, your voice matters. And together, through the lens of stories, we're going to make a difference in the world. Thank y'all.